everybody to Words with Walner. And today, of course, we have John Walner, the owner and president of Walner Law, here with us today with Words with Walner. But we also have a special guest, and his name is Tio Hardiman, and he is with Violence Interceptors. But you will find out Tio has an amazing background, and the things that he has done in this community and outside of this community to help fight violence, and all the programs that he has developed have all worked. But besides that, he's going to tell us everything that he's done. I just found out just a few minutes ago that he ran for governor at one point in time. So there's a lot to learn from Tio. So welcome, Tio. Tell us more about yourself.
Well, it's an honor to be here first and foremost, all right, with Mr. Warner here, right? Appreciate you, young man. Appreciate you. So, yeah, plus it's Violence Interrupters, okay? Violence Interrupters, not-for-profit organization. That's the name of the organization, right?
Your website
But, yeah, my website is violenceinterrupters.org, violenceinterrupters.org, and my phone number is 773-391-9072. People can reach out to me directly because I have an open-door policy.
Where are you located?
I'm located on the west side of Chicago right now.
Do you have an office?
Yeah, 1256 North Waller. That's 1256 North Waller. That's my headquarters on the west side.
It's right near the
of
Chicago Stadium.
Right, in the Austin area there. So I'm grateful to have my office there. Then I have an office on the south side as well of Chicago.
All right. So what do you do?
Well, Violence Interrupters, it's more like a public health unit of people that practice a public health approach to reducing gun violence. And what it's all about is changing mindsets and behaviors associated with violence. We look at violence like an infectious disease, where people they think violently and then they spread it to other people. I mean, that's the basis of it, right? But Violence Interrupters they work in the communities on a daily basis to detect, then, mediate, and then intervene and, save lives on the front end. For example, we had a situation, and the best way to describe it is that I'll just give you a real-life scenario. 2 months ago, a guy was released from Cook County Jail. And the same day he was released from Cook County, he shot the block up. He went over there with a semi-automatic weapon and shot the whole block up and ran everybody in the house. He wanted to take his block back over because some other guys took his block over while he was locked up. So as an end result, a lady called me, and her son and his friend, they were in the room loading their weapons to go out and retaliate against this guy. So we got the call, and this work is not for the faint of heart. Don't try this at home. I just say that with a little comedy spin to it, right? But the reality is that we rushed over to the scene. I talked to the two young guys that were in the house, and they were shaking and everything. I noticed they were not cut out for what they thought they were. They weren't. Not in this situation. I'll tell you what.
How young?
These guys were like 18, 19.
Okay.
The guy that shot the block up, he had to be about 28 years old. Okay, but he was like the OG. Even though he's 28, he was the OG on that block. Okay.
I was going to say that's young, right?
Yeah, no, but he had been on that block since he was 16.
Yeah.
So they looked at him like an OG. So this would happen. The young guys informed me they were sending him money while he was in the Cook County Jail. But he never got the money because they gave the money to his brother, and his brother never gave him the money, right? And so once they shared that information with me, when I went out to talk to the guy on the block who had shot the block up, he was really in guerrilla mode. I'm serious. He had his gun in his hand like this. His teeth were gritting.
This is before the police got there?
The police never, see, I'm not the police, Nobody called the police. They called the Violence Interrupters in this situation, right?
That's incredible.
It's really incredible. So
But for me, that I've never been involved in this, I would think that 911 would be called first.
Well, maybe somebody should have called, but nobody called. I didn't see no police, right?
Right.
And so I went out there to the car and two of my staff, and we talked to the guy in the car. I said, look, man, the guy said they sent you some money to the Cook County Jail. He said, I never got it. They gave the money to your brother, right? But he was really, really serious. He wanted to kill those guys. He wanted to kill those guys. So to make a long story short, we talked to him, and also the young guys informed me that his girlfriend was coming on the block, picking up money, but she had another guy with her. She had another guy with her. And so to make a long story short, we mediated the conflict. Nobody was shot. We calmed the guy down. But he called his girl while he was on the block. This is crazy. He said, baby, what am I hearing that you coming on the block with another guy and getting money? And the guy that she was with got on the phone and said, your girl is with me now. Get lost. And I tell you, this guy grabbed his gun again. I'm telling you, man, I thought he was going to shoot me. I'm not even joking, man. He was so mad and angry once again. But I got him to calm down, cool out a little bit, and say, hey, man, we're going to let this go. And I don't know what happened to him after that, but as an end result, the two guys, their lives were saved. people can come back out on their porches and hang out in the community, and we got him to leave and take his gun and put his gun up.
You're an interrupter.
Yeah, that's what we do. I just want to give y'all like a real story from the west side of
What community,
Chicago.
that is the west side?
Yeah, the Austin area.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just out of curiosity, what high school is serving the Austin community these days?
Austin High School.
In Austin High School, and then what is the feeder schools into Austin High School?
Well, you got a few grammar schools out there.
Gregory?
Yeah, Gregory's out there. You have, I don't work with a lot of the feeder schools per se, but you have a few of them out there. I forgot some of the names of some of them schools, but you have Michelle Clark High School, and I know the high school, because I work in a lot of the high schools.
Right.
You have YCCS West Youth Connection
Bryant,
Charter
is it
School.
another grammar school out there?
Yeah, Bryant Grammar School, yeah.
So, for all of the people that listen here, there's pockets of violence here that Tio is interested in where you must be your team and your focus is to calm the neighborhoods down, prevent future violence there, and tell us what you do to when violence isn't taking place.
Right.
Where do you serve to make sure it doesn't occur, where kids could feel safe? Going to Gregory and Bryant and the high schools, how do you make the mothers feel safe and the people in the community feel safe? What are you doing now actively so people could, especially during the school season, coming to and from school, how can you learn, how can you get a great job if you're not educated? How could you feel safe if you don't want to go to school because there's dangers and different pockets of violence? What is Tio Hardiman doing now at Violence Interrupters in the communities when there's not exactly violence acutely, like the story you just told us, where you have such an acute situation that could have erupted into the tremendous loss of life and violence, and everyone's life would have been back in jail, not a productive citizen, leading to just ripped apart households, and it'll be a circle of violence again and again and again, because when you are living in violence, when you participate in violence, your offspring could be the same.
Yeah, that's a good question, I must admit. So currently we have about 40 staff, 40 violence interrupters, and we're working with 150 high-risk individuals between ages of 16 and 25 right now. About 35% of the young men and a few young women as well, we've re-enrolled them back into school programs. Another 40%, we've enrolled them in job training programs, helping them become productive members of society. And the remaining 30% of the individuals, we connect them to social service support. Some guys are homeless. Some people need a little more mental health support, so we connect them to mental health support systems. And then some individuals have substance abuse problems. So we have them. We have a relationship with treatment centers. So it's all about networking and building collaborations in the community. So we're working with 150 people right now. So that's what we do in between time, whenever there's not any conflicts, in other words, occurring in the community. Which you're not going to have a conflict every day. In a city like Chicago, you may think you would, but you're not going to have one every day. So therefore, the violence interrupters serve as outreach workers as well to continue to work with individuals on a daily basis. Like the conflict I just shared with you all, the two young guys, one of the young guys is working at Walmart's right now because we helped him get a job, because we found that he wasn't really cut out for the street life. Remember what I told you, he was in a room shaking and stuff. So his mother, she asked me to work with him, which we did. So we got him working.
So what always occurs to me throughout our 17 podcasts, where, of course, right before we met you, we were introduced to Sabrina King, who works in the South Side.
I know her.
With grandparents or single-family homes led by the mother to enrich their lives through bowling or fun activities, bring fun and enjoyment, whether it's bowling or basketball leagues or baseball leagues, or just in celebration of doing well in your report card and giving them cash rewards for doing that and just celebrating them. And then we meet, in another episode, we met Captain A.J. Zimmerman of the Salvation Army down in Englewood, and he's providing health through basketball and music and a running track and good food, vegetables and canned goods, Greater Chicago Food Depository, getting your record cleared through justice. So, and you're providing that, but how does someone know about you? How does someone, what I'm really talking about, like what Sabrina King doing and A.J. Zimmerman are doing that we've previously met in our podcast, how are you getting the word out to grandparents that are running the household because their mothers may be victims of substance abuse, or single mother homes where they're underemployed, unemployed, relying on assistance, their children aren't seeing the future for them? how does someone reach out to you
Yeah.
after hearing the wonderful things you're doing? How do they get a hold of you and enroll their kids in one of their programs?
Well, all violence interrupters, we distribute flyers in the community with our 1888 number on there and my phone number as well. And so we canvass the community on a daily basis.
What is your 188 number?
Well, the 188, I'm not going to fake with you. I can't even remember it right
Okay, but can you,
But I can put my number out
but
there.
are you available by text also?
Yeah, they can text me at 773-391-9072. And let me give you my 88 number, too. I have to be honest with you. Yeah.
Is that textable also?
Yes, it's textable as well. I know it, but just like I haven't memorized it all the way. Because we just set up the 888 number hotline. But 1 second here, because I want to be true to all the people. Yes, 888-568-7377. That's 888-568-7377.
You know, and I hope if you're a listener of this podcast or you know someone whose child could use mentoring, who could use job training, who could benefit from seeing from the 40 workers that Tio has, that there's a better way than the gang life, than the violence life. That he could show you a better way. He could promise to train you to get a job. So if you're a grandparent or you know a grandparent that's running a household where the parents are unable to assist in providing support and love and kindness to their own family, the Tio Hardiman Violence Interrupters and their 40 men and women are there for you. And I hope you could text Tio even now and say, you know what, my kid's in trouble, my kid's in a gang, they won't let him out of the gang, or he can't get out of the gang life. How can we get him back at school? How can we have him feel safe so we don't need him to come into a situation where the violence is occurring acutely, it's occurring now, where Tio and his staff have to risk their own lives to make it safe for your children on the street.
Well, that's the reason why when I started out, I talked about public health, because the violence interrupters are more than just a street type of outfit going out resolving conflicts. It's about changing the way people think. For example, there used to be a time when people would smoke in public everywhere because of the big public health campaign that was put together, many, many years ago. Yeah. People are not smoking in public places around one another because of secondhand cancer and all that kind of stuff. We're hoping if we really push the public health message that violence spreads like an infectious disease, that there will come a time where people don't even pull out guns anymore. It's wishful thinking, but it could happen. We experienced a lot of reductions in shootings and killings in some of the areas that we work in. For example, in Austin back in 2022, there's about a 49% reduction in shootings within the Austin area in which we work in. I don't take all the credit. I never do that. But we mediated around 25 conflicts on the front end that could have turned deadly, and we stopped the guys from shooting one another. And then also what we do is we keep up with the people we work with on a daily basis. So, for example, out of the 150 people we're working with, about 85 to 90% of the people did not reoffend. So therefore, we have a timeline in which we produce and we take a look and we detail all the work we're doing with everybody we work with to make sure that we have a successful track record with the people we serve.
I feel very strongly about mental illness also leads to violence. And if you can work in your community with those people that really do have a problem that they were born with, it's in their DNA. Mental illness is also exacerbated by drug use.
Yes.
Drug use leads to violence. And I'm very proud of you that you're working with treatment centers to get yourself off of drugs, because when you're on drugs, you carry around anger and resentment of those around you. But the anger and resentment that leads to violence is occurring because of drug use that can be treated.
Yes.
You've seen that in your life, drugs and alcohol. And most importantly, I do feel, just by talking to Sabrina King and your good friend Eric Russell or Carl Russ, or we've had it on our program, Andrew Stroke, who is, helps mothers whose children were shot by the police, harmed, by actions of the police in violence against your community wrongly, and hopefully getting these officers thrown off the force and rehabilitating these lives also of police violence. But number one, drug use, access to jobs, access to food, and what else do you think leads to violence besides mental illness and drug use and being poor, not having a family household and lack of education and safety? What is like the number one theme that you want to tell the
Well,
grandparents?
it's learned behavior. It's like passed down from generation to generation.
Right.
I grew up in the Henry Horner Projects, by the United Center. It used to be the old stadium
Right.
area.
Exactly.
And, I lived in a building, you had about 3,000 people in the building, and I knew basically everybody in the building, but you had to fight over there, man. At the age of 10, 11, 12 years old, you had to fight on the front porch. If not, you couldn't even hardly come out. Not to say that I'm not the toughest guy in the universe, but I had to stand my ground on a lot of different occasions. Some people took it to the killing ground, though. They wouldn't just fight when the guns came into play. And then plus people passed down the behavior to their friends. And for example, if I'm mad at somebody, 200 of my friends are mad at the same person. That's the reason why I say it spreads like an infectious disease. And that's for real. And then when the gangs start choosing sides, you had this gang over here, this gang over there, and all of a sudden we hate each other, and we don't even know why we hate each other. You see, I was never a gang member per se. I'm well connected with the gangs because I want to be my own man. That's the reason why I never joined, right? That doesn't make me tougher than anybody else, but I've experienced, matter of fact, I'll just tell you a quick gangster story. I use it as comedy now, but it's a real life story. And I never received any type of trauma backup support for this, right? My stepfather shot and killed a guy right in front of me when I was 10 years old. And this is what he told the guy. He said, look, man, did you call the funeral home today? The guy said, why the hell am I call the funeral home? He said, you should have told him you was on your way. And he shot him in his head with a .38 revolver. And I saw the flash of light come out the gun and everything. I'm 10 years old. I never got no trauma, no trauma support. I had to go to my room and just look up in the ceiling.
I can't even imagine. I grew up in a different world as an attorney, and I had the benefits of everything given to me to succeed in life because everyone, like you, spreads like wildfire. All the kids I grew up with, whose parents, that's all they wanted for them was to succeed. So now you have, so I was thrust into a community that I could assert that this is true. Being successful is also a disease, and everyone wants to do it in other neighborhoods.
That's right.
And now you have a situation in this neighborhood where that's not even an option. And that's where Tio Hardiman comes in your organization. We're Chicagoans blessed to have you. But you know what's going on in our elections? We know we had Mayor Lightfoot that was going to come clean up crime, and then she didn't get along with the Board of Education. She didn't get along with the police union. And then for change, we have our new mayor, Brandon Johnson. Tell us what you feel in your neck of the woods, in your areas of Austin and other impoverished communities where it is dominated by violence. What are we thinking about Brandon Johnson as a new mayor? What are we thinking about the police union? How are they working with you and your organization to have a better life for these minors?
Good question, John.
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, I have a pretty good relationship with the Chicago Police Department. I stay in my lane. Violence interrupters, we work to prevent gun violence on the front end. I believe that a lot of the legislators, in other words, criminal justice reform has kind of backfired on the victims of violence in Chicago. To date, in the year that we're in right now, 2023, there's been 7,200 armed robberies in Chicago. We have a no chase policy. The police cannot chase offenders on foot or by car. We have a no chase policy, right? And so criminal justice reform, we have to kind of like take a look at it and analyze it on different levels at one time or another. Now, Lloyd Lightfoot, in my opinion, this is my opinion, I know her pretty good. She never really met with me while she was the mayor, but maybe one time. But whenever I'm at a public event, she would say, Tio Hardiman's in the audience. That's one of my good friends, but she never even met with me until she left office. I'm just being honest with everybody. Yeah. I don't understand it. I'm not even going to get caught up into it, right? But Brandon Johnson, the verdict is still out on him. He's a new mayor now, but he's already made a few missteps so far with the migrant situation, the sanctuary city type of policies in there. Not that he brought the sanctuary city policy to Chicago. It was way back when Harold Washington was in office, and Lloyd Lightfoot kept it going. But right now, we need an executive that can make a decision.
Regarding migrants, we're getting 20,000 migrants shipped to us from Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, here.
Right.
And as you know, and you've probably been affected by this in Chicago, you've seen all the migrants at all the police stations in Chicago just sleeping out in the parking lot in front of it. We have these 10 cities. Now, Chicago, we do have, obviously, everyone knows why people are coming to America from Guatemala and Ecuador and Venezuela. Besides the people from Mexico, is because there's violence in their hometowns and there is gangs, and they're fleeing that. And now we have this crisis at the border that was under Trump, and obviously it is being thrown on Biden. But here you got it locally. From Texas, coming to Chicago. What is Brandon Johnson doing about it? How is he going to solve this problem in Chicago to make the immigrants feel safe also. They came here for a better life and a better world, and are we treating them like garbage? Should they be treated like garbage?
Well, you know, I
What should we
ran
do
for
for
governor
them?
myself, and I ran for
Right.
governor in 2014, secured almost 30% of the state vote. So I do have an opinion and a point of view and my perspective.
What is
the
it?
thing, my perspective is someone in power here in Illinois should make an executive decision to place a temporary hold on sanctuary city policy or either reverse the policy until we get things straightened out with the migrants we have here already. I'm not against the migrants. I want to make that clear.
Right.
We all human beings, but the point is, you already have 6,000 to 8,000 homeless people in Chicago before the migrants got here. So if you add another 20,000, that's like 88,000, something like that, 80,600. So the reality is that you're not taking care of the homeless you already have.
Right.
So that's where the problem is coming in, even in the Latino community.
Yeah, and I think it's going to affect many communities. It's going to affect the black community as
Yes.
well. I mean, you know, everybody's going to be wanting jobs, and there's only so many jobs, right? I mean, so, you know, this is going to have a long-lasting effect, in my opinion.
And you know what, with this violence interrupters, you know what the best place not to be, to grow, is in jail. So if you have any problems with addiction and mental illness, we shouldn't have our citizens in jail, and they should be in treatment centers and other facilities.
Yeah.
Because once you're in jail, now you have your anger, resentment grows, your nexus with violence is bad.
Yeah.
So let's also find out what is the root cause of this homelessness. Too, and I think that Brandon Johnson did address that, you know, when he was running for mayor against Paul Valls, Chick Garcia, there was a lot of different thoughts and ideas of what to do with our homelessness, and which could erupt into violence. So we got a lot of issues in Chicago, and I'm
Got
glad
a
you're
lot
one of the
things.
problems.
Well, there was just somebody in, I think, Lincoln Park that was attacked.
Well,
just
this is the
like last
thing.
week.
The armed robbers are robbing people all over the city right now.
Right.
It's not even like contained to the west and south side. People are robbing in Lincoln Park, Uptown, Logan Square, you name it. Even some of the suburban areas.
Yeah,
because-
that's a fact.
Yeah, that's a
Because just, I'm
serious
going to
fact.
just tell you personally, I'm not rich by any means, but as a lawyer, I am living in Lincoln Park.
Yeah.
And there's an alley, you know, in Chicago. Everyone has an alley behind their homes, and they put a gun to my neighbor, put a white BMW, and a 7-year-old in the car, and she said, "Can you please, my child leave the car too?" And just at a restaurant around the corner, there are always carjackings. And then my son is a lawyer, and his legal colleague was on the subway off of State and maybe Monroe, and they beat her so badly that she can no longer, not as it only practice law, but she was hospitalized for a long period of time, and now she's getting home care. So the violence is no longer limited to your K streets on the west side,
Right.
but it is coming to Lincoln Avenue and Clybourne and Belmont and Fullerton and Madison and Monroe and Adams and Wacker. It is spread to the east, to the north, and we've got to cut it off from the neighborhoods through education, through food, through public health, lack of smoking, as Tio said to us. That campaign probably helped. But most importantly, what Tio's doing is when he talked about the gang violence, when a guy shot up his street, when he came out of jail, he has 2 youths that were going to come back at him, and now one of them's working at Walmart. Well, that's a miracle. That's one miracle. And that could spread also. That message could spread to a lot of people. Bad news hurts, but good news spreads further. Would you agree with that,
I
Tio?
love the way you made the point. Actually, plus I plan to challenge you in a positive way here. You know, I volunteer at the Cook County Jail every Friday morning from 10 to 11, no, 9 to 10. And if you want to come down one day and talk to some of the detainees down there, let me know.
I love to because
Yeah.
because I've worked with Haymarket, and I've spoken and I've spoken here on Grand Avenue
right.
to the men that are in a halfway house between prison and
Right.
society. I've spoken many times to the big assembly there. I've been to Haymarket, where you also see homelessness, victims of drug abuse, heroin, that have thrown their world into chaos, leading to criminal activity. So I've sat on the cots in Haymarket. That is no sheets, no blankets, men in their clothes. They haven't taken a shower, ate a good meal. So I know what poor is. Being poor is a disease. I've witnessed it. I've mentored people. I've been involved in the city of Chicago since I've been a young man, since my dad, Harvey Walner, started practicing personal joy. In 1961, I've been into the towers of poverty of Cabrini Green on the south side, seeing where people have been victims of accident, been injured severely, whether it's by police brutality, car accidents, injured on the job. And I've met people on their own ground where they live, and I tell my son and all his friends if I can, being poor is a disease also. And it's hard to come out of this disease.
It's not easy at all.
It's not easy.
But-
and I'd be glad to come to Cook County and volunteer with you
Right.
and say, I may not have been a criminal, but I have been around a ton of gangbangers whose lives have been upended, and I've seen that result in single-family homes, grandmothers taking care of kids, being on assistance, being on health assistance at Stroger and Trinity. So let's support Tio. Let's contact with his organization. Donate your time, your money to making having Chicago a better life. And let's wish for Brandon Johnson to be successful. Let's make sure the police union works with him and the Board of Education to make Chicago safe, welcoming, and empower our citizens to be better, to show Chicago we are a beacon of hope. And thank you for Tio Hardiman for coming here today
Appreciate
and
it.
spreading the word.
We really
Okay.
do appreciate it. I did want to ask, though, what is it that you do once you get in front of somebody? Like, how do you calm them down? What are the tactics that you use to be that interrupter with someone that wants to go out and shoot somebody up?
Yeah.
That's the part that is like, I don't know how you do that, and explain.
Well, I also designed a 40-hour curriculum, a training curriculum for violence interrupters, and we train in the areas of conflict resolution, dealing with trauma, structural trauma. And plus, by me growing up in the projects, I know a lot of people that had psychotic behaviors. Believe it or not, I know how to deal with stressful situations, calm people down, and you have to know, you kind of have to walk in the mindset or the shoes of a would-be shooter and understand their thinking. That's how I'm able to calm them down. I'm looking at different angles to talk to people. Also, violence interrupters, we've been giving back to victims of domestic violence as well. I've rescued around 10 women out of domestic violence situations over the last year as well. And then we've actually helped, we just got a woman out of a domestic violence situation, and I talked to some donors, and they purchased like clothes for 5 kids and all that kind of good stuff. So that's what we do. It's about joining their world, then bringing them into your world. That's the best way I can describe it for you, because you're not going to stop a killing anyway unless you have a personal relationship with the would-be killer. I don't care who you are, wherever you come from. If you don't have that relationship with that would-be killer, you're not going to be able to stop it. You cannot be a stranger going in trying to say, okay, well, why don't you just stop this? I'm like a household name. All praises due to God. I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual, right? And I represent my culture everywhere I go. I just represent the culture. So when people see me, they know me. They've seen me on TV. One day, and I kid you not, I was going to visit a young lady. It was 4 guys in front of her house with full-face ski masks on, right? I'd already parked my car, so I committed to parking already. So I'm not going to drive off. I didn't want them to shoot at me, right? So I got out of my car, and I walked up to the guy. I say, I'm going to see a young lady over here. And they say, man, I've seen you on TV, man. You seem to be a good brother. I say, whatever. And I went on up in her house, man. We were cool. So I'm just saying, like I've been around the community. So when you ask me, what do I do to kind of diffuse situations, it's all about knowing the type of people you're working with and knowing how to talk to them at a certain time.
It's a skill you've developed since you've
Yeah.
been probably 13, 14 years old.
Yes,
You're
indeed.
not born with this. But you have the ability to understand it. You have to be a unique individual to understand and how to implement it in your life. You may know how to do it, but you have been there at the front lines of being successful in it, and that's why you're an attractive person to the community, and people look up to you, why Mayor Lightfoot would like to be friends with you, should have been friends with you, to work with the police force, with CAPS, with our community, to have people trust in the cops too, so we don't need to come there in an acute manner. And let's try to educate people on drug and alcohol abuse and mental illness, because it seems like when you say psychotic behavior, it says to me, what have we done for these people that have acted psychotic, and why is violence the last resort, and why do we need Tio Hardiman? Let's solve those problems too.
Well, I have to be honest with the public as well. You have about 5% of individuals out there. They're pretty much, I teach as adjunct professor too at North Park University, right?
Terrific.
Yeah, so
That's great.
I did go back to school and I obtained my master's degree, all that good stuff. My book will be completed before Thanksgiving. It's titled Interrupting Gun Violence, right? And then I have a comic book for kids already between the ages of like 9 and 13 titled Mr. Ceasefire. So, we put some work in out here, right? So the reality is this here, is that together we can win. With people like yourself and the philanthropic community coming together.
Right.
It's not always about money, though. I don't want to just push money out there. But the reality is that we can work with individuals and mentor individuals. It takes a certain amount of resources, but you can help change people's lives just by spending that quality time.
Let's get them to trust Tio. This is the whole thing. You have to trust someone that's going to mentor you, because when you're surrounded by violence, when the police won't even come to your neighborhood, or the police will shoot you, when you're not armed and you're not doing anything wrong. So you have lack of trust in the police, and you have mental illness, you have drug abuse, you have unhealthy living, you have no access to good jobs. So that's where Tio comes in, and it shouldn't be that way. Chicago is lucky to have you. We like you on the front lines. I really wish you would educate more and more people, get a staff of 1,000 people in all communities, and let's change change this city one day at a time.
Yeah.
I'm proud to live in Chicago. I'm proud to serve Chicago. I've been a lawyer in Chicago since 1987, helping those who are injured as a result of no fault of their own get back on their feet. And I happen to be ingrained in the community. My dad grew up at 430 South Costner. He went to school at Austin High School. He went to Sumner Grammar School. And so when he came to be a lawyer in 1961, he knew what it's like to be poor. His mother had passed away when he was 4 years old, so he came out of fighting for his rights too, and wanted to help others so situated, and that's been ingrained in me and my family. We're blessed to be able to give back to Chicago as one of the best personal injury firms in Chicago we have our hearts for you. We feel for you. We've been in your community. I've been in the towers of poverty all over this city in every neighborhood. And I'm proud to be an attorney. I'm proud to be an attorney in Chicago, and I'm proud to meet men like Tio Hardiman in my life. It's a blessing today. It's a blessing to have met you.
So John,
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Yeah.
how does somebody get a hold of you, John?
You know, we're at Walner Law. We're at 1-312-8 all zeros. That's 800-0000. WalnerLaw.com. We're here to help you. Win with Walner. I'm honestly saying that we will win for you. We'll go to every length to crush it for you.
And Tio, one more time, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, and this is why it's important. We know that this sort of a resource takes money to keep it going. And so I do encourage people to, if you liked what Tio is doing and you like the work that he's doing, please donate, because it's really important that organizations like this continue. They save lives every day, and they're going to continue to save lives. And as he continues to grow the organization, they're going to need money. So the more you can help out Tio and the organization, the Violence Interrupters, that would be fantastic. So Tio?
Yeah, all donations can serve as a tax write-off. You know, I'm a legitimate 501c3. I incorporated Violence Interrupters back in 2004. Actually, I've been living off Violence Interrupters since '04. All right, and you can visit my website at violenceinterrupters.org. That's violenceinterrupters.org, and you can donate right on the website. Actually, I have a system set up on my website, and then also you can call me directly at 773-391-9072, and we plan to just keep working, trying to make Chicago safe as we can. I'm like, Mr. Walner here. Get your name right. I'm sorry about that. Jonathan?
What do you mean? Jonathan Walner.
Jonathan, I get it.
You got it.
I get it right. Okay, good. I'm like you. I love my city. I love Chicago, and that's why I'm here to stay and try to help as many people as we can.
Blessing to meet you. Chicago's lucky to have you.
Yep.
Support Tio Hardiman, the Violence Interrupters, and make it safe in those neighborhoods so that it doesn't spread to your neighborhoods either.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
You think you're safe? Tio's making it safe in Austin so you could feel safe. That's just
right.
the bottom line, and that's the truth.
That's right.
And God, I'll say this quickly, show you how God works. I've been around royalty. Even though I grew up in the projects, I flew to the UK. I met with former Prime Minister David Cameron before, former Prime Minister Theresa May, Queen Northam Jordan. I have a picture with her like she my girl. I don't drink alcohol, but I had like some water in a little martini glass and everything. But her Secret Service told me I couldn't take a picture with her. I come from Chicago. We got a little backbone, right? So I'm hugged up with the Queen like she my girl, you know?
Yeah,
that's great.
And just as an offshoot, if anyone even cares, you have Jordan under King Abdullah right now, the worst violence ever in the Mideast. Starting October 7th, you have the Hamas coming over from the Gaza Strip, slicing Israeli soldiers' heads off, ripping babies out of wombs, killing kids, kidnapping old people. And you have King Abdullah of Jordan, who you were so honored to meet,
met his wife.
not taking in one single solitary refugee from this war. And Egypt not taking in one single refugee. Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi, Qatar, Kuwait, not taking in anyone. And if they had a person like Tio Hardiman we wouldn't have to go there because he would have interrupted the violence that was in their heart when you have 1,200 people from us crossing into Israel, killing people, beheading them, raping them, and shooting them in the head. That's violence inside where no one went by them to teach them violence reduction, cool heads, chill it. Why are you doing it? It's the same thing that's going on in Chicago.
Yes, always.
All right, thanks for coming, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.